Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. And welcome to the URI Parent Council presentation, hashtag Rams Helping Rams, broadening our impact to serve the URI community with Barbara Sweeney. My name is Andrea Heineman, and I'm from Wakefield, Rhode Island. I'm the parent of two sons in the engineering program. This is my third year on the Parent Council, and I am one of the coordinators for hashtag No Ram Hungry. It was through my younger son's Eagle Scout project, Jack's Eagle Scout project, that I became aware of the issue of basic needs insecurity facing college students across the country. And when I joined the Parent Council, and we were trying to figure out, where we saw ourselves and what our role could be. We thought it would be perfect to build on Jack's work there. And you'll hear from Jack a little bit later, and he'll tell you more about that. But before we begin our programming, I just want to go over a few notes. This session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on the URI Alumni YouTube channel after the presentation. If you have any questions as the session progresses, please put them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them after the presentation. I also want to thank Alicia Johnson. She is the Assistant Director at URI FAE, and she has been committed to helping hashtag No Ram Hungry and the Roadie Outpost. She's also the facilitator for today's meeting, and it is her high level of professionalism and expertise that really helps us do the work, this important work. So at this time, I think we'll get ready to begin the presentation. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Barbara Sweeney. Barbara is the parent of a first-year URI student, and Barbara is the coordinator of food security at URI and part-time faculty member in the Department of Human Development and Family Science. In this position, Barbara is responsible for coordinating URI's Basic Need Pantry, Roadie Outpost, supporting individual students experiencing food and basic needs insecurity, and addressing overall basic needs insecurity policies and practices at the University of Rhode Island. And prior to Barbara's current position, she was the project manager for an interprofessional health initiative at URI. Barbara has earned her bachelor degree in elementary education, human development, counseling, and family studies from URI in 1993, and her master of social work in 1997, and a master of public health in 1998 from Boston University. Barbara is a licensed clinical social worker and certified family life educator. And I can tell you that through my son's Eagle Scout project, we became acquainted with Roadie Outpost and Barbara Sweeney's fine and very important work that inspires us to get up and get out and help our fellow Rams. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Barbara Sweeney.
Hi, everyone. Andrea and Alicia, thank you both so very much for organizing this today. Andrea and Alicia certainly make a dream team, and I adore working with both of them. And I'm so grateful to all of you for taking the time to come out today and learn a little bit about food insecurity. As Andrea mentioned, I'm so proud to be an alum of URI, the daughter of an alum, and now the parent of a current student. So Rhody has a long history in my heart. I'm very, very honored to be here. I will share my screen for a short presentation, and then we'll have some time for questions. There we go. Alrighty. So we want to begin by talking about food security or food insecurity, and what does it mean to be food insecure? This is actually sort of an accepted national definition. So when we talk about food insecurity, or excuse me, when we talk about food security, we define it as access by all people at all times for enough food for an active and healthy life. So you can see this definition is a little bit nuanced. It's more than simply having enough calories to get through the day. You could certainly, when we think about college students, you could certainly think about college students could eat enough pizza to give them 2,000 calories for a day. They could certainly do that, but that would not necessarily be the nutritional foundation that we hope that our students have. So we're looking at adequate food, access to food, to be able to do the activities and responsibilities that are required of you. And so obviously when we think about students, we're thinking about some kind of cognitive heavy lifting. Our students are doing hard work in addition to working jobs, being part of Greek life or clubs on campus, making friends, doing all the things we hope college students do during their time here. And for students who are food insecure, it results from inadequate resources, not personal failings. And I'll be sharing a student's story in a few minutes that kind of demonstrates how the student has done everything she was supposed to and is still really struggling. I do apologize. There's some noise out in my hallway right now. I'm in the student union. But those inadequate resources or lack of access to those resources, we know can have mental, physical, behavioral, and certainly academic consequences for our students. Excuse me. Um, in our business, we like to say no one is just hungry. And what that means is if you are struggling to get adequate food, adequate nutrition, it also means there's other risks in your life. You're also struggling to get your other basic needs met. So very often, instead of food insecurity, we'll talk about basic needs insecurity as a more broad term. Our colleagues at the Hope Center for College and Community Injustice, which is located at Temple University out in Philadelphia, they're a great sort of national resource for those of us in this business when we think about what specific basic needs and security means for students. So we can think about the things listed on here, including access to nutritious and sufficient food, as well as the knowledge of where that next meal is coming from, safe, secure, and adequate housing, so places where they can sleep, shower, study, rest, relax, entertain, prepare meals. I would add in our technological times, having access to reliable Wi-Fi. For 100% of our students, Wi-Fi is mandatory. It's no different than electricity these days. We want our students to have access to healthcare. I mentioned affordable or access to technology, transportation, and resources for personal hygiene, as well as other personal needs. And so to say we have basic needs security here on campus means there's an ecosystem in place to ensure that these needs are met. I hope I help contribute to that. I will be the first to admit our ecosystem is not as tight and not as full as I would like it to be. And again, basic needs and security, we look at it as a structural or more policy level characteristic that that foundation, that ecosystem, that infrastructure is not in place. We have students who work incredibly hard, do all the right things, are just killing it with their classes, and they're still struggling to get their basic needs met. There's nothing more they could be doing. It's speaking to our infrastructure. It's speaking to the cost of college. It's speaking to the rising cost of everything these days that's making it more and more challenging for our students to meet those basic needs. Excuse me, again from our colleagues at the Hope Center out in Temple, just another way of looking at what students' basic needs are and what some of the challenges are. We know that the cost of college is more expensive than ever. We also have more diverse students coming to college these days, which is a wonderful thing. But whereas generations ago, college was something that was often reserved for middle and upper middle class and upper class. And also the cost of college was significantly less. What we're finding is more students coming and higher costs are resulting in more and more students who are struggling to get their basic needs met. Financial aid is woefully insufficient. Things like SNAP benefits, or what we call food stamps, are limited. There's certain barriers that college students face in trying to access SNAP benefits. Our international students are not eligible for SNAP benefits at all. So there's some policy blockades to getting basic needs met for many of our students. So again, I just want to drive that point home that our students are doing everything right, and there's still some significant challenges for them. When we talk about basic needs and security, I mentioned food insecurity, so limited or uncertain availability. And a big part of that is, as I work with students, excuse me. I apologize, my computer's taking over. Um, Students, have food for a day, or they know I can eat through Wednesday, and then after that, I don't know what happens. I don't get paid again until Saturday. I'm uncertain of where my food is coming from, or I brought enough food onto campus. I'm here all day. I have enough for a little bit of breakfast and a little bit of lunch. After that, I have nothing. Um, and that uncertainty can really lead to understandably very high levels of anxiety and discontent among our students, incredible amounts of worry that's really taking away from their ability to focus on their academics. Um, so it's not just the lack of food, it's the worry about how am I going to get more food that I see particularly chronic and unrelenting among our students. Um, I also work with a lot of students who are experiencing housing insecurity on top of food insecurity. So they're living temporarily, they have perhaps a roommate or apartment mate who is unsafe, and they don't feel like they're able to live there safely. I was just working with a student yesterday who very fortunately got out of that kind of situation. They're perhaps couch surfing with a friend for a couple of weeks, or staying with this family member or that family member. Again, it's that lack of certainty of, I know I'm set for a couple of days, I don't know what's happening after that. Or even, I know I'm set for the academic year, I don't know what's going to happen in the summer. I work with a lot of students who are estranged from their families for a variety of reasons, many times involving their gender or sexual identity, and their family has said, you are not welcome here anymore. You may not come home over break or during the summer. So while they may be okay during the school year, and even during J term and spring break when the dorms are open, it becomes a little dicier during the summer. So I'll talk about how we try to meet that in a little bit. And then, of course, I have worked with students who met the federal criteria of homeless. They were living in their cars. And that was okay in September when I first met with the student. He happened to have a broken window in his car, and I said that's going to be a problem once January comes. He was able to find semi-secure housing, living with a friend and her parents. And this was a student who was still working, still coming to class, but he was living in his car. And we have students who are in those situations here at URI and in every college across the country. Excuse me. Again, another look at what our basic needs are. So beyond the food and housing and even financial security that we tend to think of as basic needs, um, support to help with these other more affective areas of life. How do I get help in a crisis? My roommate has assaulted me. I can't stay there anymore. I don't feel safe. What can I do? I can't. I have mobility issues. How can I access the Rhodey Outpost? How can I access my classes? And I certainly don't do all of these or provide solutions to all of these myself. This is where our strong network of offices within the Dean of Students office where I work, and the Vice President for Student Affairs, across campus, our counseling center, our disability access and inclusion office, our police department, our violence prevention advocate, our online telehealth options for students, all of these things, we need to collaborate, to work together to meet our students' basic needs. But many of our students are challenged by 3, 4, 5, or all 7 of the items that you see here on this graphic. I just want to share one more graphic with you, and I really, really like this one because it does a nice job of showing the interconnectedness of basic needs, and how a shortcoming in one area really can have multiple effects. So, for example, we'll take hygiene. If a student does not have secure housing or access to be able to purchase soap, shampoo, menstrual products, deodorant, what are going to be the implications for that student? Well, I can tell you, and I have a student testimony that'll back that up in just a moment. A student who doesn't feel clean, who doesn't have a place to shower, doesn't have the proper hygiene materials, is not going to come to class. That's the first thing that's going to happen. And so we know their academic needs are going to, or their academics are going to suffer. That can very quickly turn into financial needs. We have many students who are on, receiving different kinds of aid based on merit, based on their academic merit. If their grades drop, they're putting themselves, they become at risk for losing some financial support. Obviously, it's going to be affecting their mental health because of the worry and the anxiety that are going to be kind of a constant companion for them. So it's just a very simple sort of description of how things are interconnected. But I think this graphic does a really nice job of helping you see how it's so much more complex than, oh, the student just needs a meal or just needs a bag of food or just needs a gift card to the grocery store. It is much more complex than that. And if you'll bear with me for a minute, I wanted to read a short testimony. I felt like it would be very powerful if you listen to it. It will just take me a few moments to read. And this is for a request I just got the other day from a student asking. This was an intake form that we use for the Rhody Outpost, where students just kind of have to describe what their food insecurity and basic needs insecurity circumstances are like. And the student referenced having a household that she does not feel safe to return to. In fact, her family of origin has said, no, you are no longer welcome back in our home. The student has a campus job that covers her housing. She's able to pay for a meal plan, so during the year she's okay. But as the summer's approaching, this is where she begins to get worried. She's applied to many positions in order to have a place to stay free of cost. She's applying for summer housing, realizes that students can't buy a meal plan during the summer. It's very limited. Our facilities are very limited during the summer. So even with resources, if you can't get there between 7 and 2, it's tough to find a place to eat on campus. If you don't have a car to get into Narragansett or Wakefield, you rely on the bus, which is a challenge. It's not insurmountable, but it's one more layer in getting their needs met. But the student says, when I stayed in my dorm over winter break and spring break, I realized quickly that the cost of healthy, nutritious groceries was extremely difficult for me to provide for myself. I spent most of my time working and using the food at work to feed myself. I quite often only had something small like a bag of chips and a few chicken fingers through my 8 to 10 hour day over break. When I wasn't working, I relied on much cheaper noodle products. Now, you don't need to be a registered dietitian to know that that amount of food is not sufficient for an adult college student. When I'm eating over the school year, I very rarely have food in my room in order to feed myself after many hours of schoolwork, activities, and other responsibilities. This has caused me lots of anxiety over the year, and I was not able to focus on school because I needed to focus on earning money for things like food and other personal necessities like menstrual products and hygiene products. I often felt tired, as if there wasn't enough fuel in my body. I also went days without a shower or taking care of myself because I was not able to afford soap. Because of these obstacles, my academics and grades sunk and left me with no energy to attend class. Over summer, these similar circumstances will arise, and as I save up to pay tuition for next school year. So we have a student who really is doing everything right. She's an excellent student based on her grades, got a job on campus, really thought through this. And she tried and she tried and she tried, and it's still not enough. And I think that's a really important point, is that it's this kind of chronic, unrelenting, I'm set for a semester, but I know there's a cliff right after that. And that's what's really heartbreaking about working with our students. They're so gifted and they're so talented and they want to be here so badly. But these are the kind of barriers they're up against. So when we look at who's most impacted um, by food and basic needs insecurity, we can see that it's and this national data bears this out. Students who've come from more risk positive backgrounds, students who've matriculated out of a foster care system, students who identify on the LGBTQ plus spectrum, students of color, students who receive Pell Grants, which by definition are students who come from a lower income family. When we look even further into that, we can see that first generation students who don't necessarily have a roadmap as to how to get through college, students who are parents who are responsible for raising children, and I can tell you 100% of the time are also working 1, 2, or more jobs while they're trying to complete a degree. students who are older, students who are veterans, military veterans who have come back to school, perhaps on the GI Bill. The family I was raised in, that was our experience. My dad came here as a URI student when my older brothers and I were all in elementary school, on the GI Bill, and we lived on his retirement pay from the Army. And I'm not quite sure how we did it. We were a family who probably could have used a resource like the Rhodey Outpost when my dad was here. Our international students, I mentioned specifically, international students are not eligible for SNAP benefits. Um, and that's a real gap in policy. It's not URI policy, it's a federal policy. But it's unfortunate because the cost of living here is incredibly high, as you all know. And for our international students who are also limited in the amount of work they can do, they can work on campus. As a graduate student, they get a graduate assistantship, but that's very limited. That's meant to support them. Many of our international grad students who are getting their doctorate, they're here for 6 or 7 years. So they brought their family with them, which is understandable. They don't want to be away from their spouse and children for 7 years. However, their spouses are not able to work under their visa status. And so now this assistantship that was meant to cover one person is being stretched to cover 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So those are some real challenges for our international students. And our international graduate students definitely make up the bulk of the students I see at the Rhodey Outpost. This is a little bit of old data, and I am only sharing it because I think it really is compelling, because it shows, again, the amount of worry and mental load that students carry. This is from 2020, so it's no doubt affected by COVID. And you can see the blue bars represent students at two-year colleges, and the orangey red bar represents students at four-year universities. So you can see students at two-year colleges experience food insecurity at higher rates than students at four-year college, which is understandable for a number of reasons. But you can see that students, they had worry about whether their food would run out. They couldn't afford to have that balanced nutrition. They skipped food. They rationed their food. They were hungry. They went long periods of time without eating, and some of them lost weight because there wasn't enough money for food. So these are all some serious behavioral, mental, and physical health consequences that can result from food insecurity. Um, and we can look at a similar graph, again, for housing insecurity. Sort of, again, rationing the bills. You pay one, you skip another one. You had an account go into default, which again could potentially put your financial aid at risk. Lived with other people beyond the capacity that residence would allow for, or had to leave the household because they felt unsafe. Again, students it tended to affect students at two-year colleges more than at four-year, but these are still some pretty significant numbers. Now we get into my specific area of expertise, which is our Rhodey Outpost. I've got a graph here that shows our usage from June of 22, which is when I started, through March of 2024. And I apologize for the light color in these last year. Each color represents sort of a different semester. So we have summer of 22, the fall and spring of 22, 23, summer of 23, and then these last bars are the current school year that we're in, starting in September. So you can see we started off very low. I was serving about 15 students in the summer I started. That quickly jumped up, where we're averaging 80 or more. Excuse me. Or with a little bit less in the summer. Most of our graduate students and our international students are here all year. They don't go home for summer. We have many few undergraduates in the summer, as you might imagine. We hit September off very strong this year with an average in the 90s. It's leveled out a little bit because we're trying to encourage students to use the outpost as a supplement, not as their primary means of getting groceries. So we've begun limiting to 2 or now 3 times a month to come, where we were having about 80 to 90 students every week, and that's just an unsustainable amount of resources. And we really want to encourage students to think about, taking a trip to Walmart, or Aldi, which are probably the least expensive stores to go to, or how can they, maximize their other resources, and also use other pantries in the area. Students are welcome to use like Johnny Cake Center or Rycan or St. Peter's. We just can't be the only source of food because it means we can't serve all the students we're supposed to be serving. Just a few more numbers. If we look at the first 5 weeks of this semester in the previous school year, so 2023, excuse me, 2022, 2023, we served 175 students in the first month or so of the semester at a cost of just about $400 because I began ordering food when we moved into our current location in October. I order produce, bread, and I was ordering meat and fish through our vendors. I had to stop that because it was too expensive. A year later, the first 5 weeks of this current school year, we served over 450 students at a cost of over $4,000. And that's just the food that I ordered through our vendors. So you can see how it's incredibly expensive. And that's simply to keep milk, eggs, dairy, or excuse me, milk, eggs, yogurt, loaves of bread, and a minimal amount of produce, bananas, peppers, cucumbers, potatoes, and onions in stock to serve 90 people a week. So that's one of the reasons why we began asking students, can you try to balance it out and pick 3 times in the month to come? What we know, according to some data we collected last spring, is about a fourth of our students are food insecure. So given that our campus or our total campus community is somewhere in the 17 to 18,000 range, we know it's about 4,500 students who are experiencing food insecurity. So if I'm only serving at the moment an average of 90 students a week, we probably have about 250 students or 175 students altogether who use the pantry. Not all of them come frequently, some just come once a month. We're missing a lot of students. We need to do a better job of reaching out, especially to our undergrad students, and letting students know we're an available resource for them. Here's the best part. Here's some pictures to share with you. We're located in the dining services warehouse, which of course looks like a warehouse, so it's not the most aesthetically beautiful place, but it is a wonderful location. We have a lot more space there than when we used to be up at St. Augustine's. So you can see we lay our produce out on some tables inside the sort of caged area. And the reason why there's sort of chain link fence there is because it used to be a locked area where the catering office stored alcohol. That's why it was behind a fence, not because they didn't like us. But inside is where we keep all of our non-perishable items and personal care items. And the folks in this picture are by far the most important folks at the Rhodey Outpost. We have our wonderful friends, Beth Sherman, who's the vicar from St. Augustine's Church, where we used to be located. Beth has a very close relationship with many of our students and really was very concerned that that would be compromised when we moved out of St. Augustine's. So we simply agreed, well, you take your show on the road. If we don't come to you, you come to us. So every Friday, she and one of her wonderful volunteers, Roy, who's a retired chemist who's hilarious and brilliant. They come down and they just spend time with students. They bring treats. We have kind of a social area set up. Students talk about their research and their writing and their travels. And they've really come to treasure their relationship with Beth and with Roy and look forward to a chance on a Friday afternoon to kind of sit and decompress. It's really very lovely. It's sort of like a coffee house atmosphere, and it's really what I think the best part of the Rhodey Outpost, because it lets folks know that we're a community. They're welcome there. And that someone cares about them and someone wants them to be successful. And of course, you see our four-legged friend who is Maverick. He is Beth's companion, her pride and joy, one of her pets. And Maverick is not a therapy dog, but he might as well be one because he is just the most chill dog. And he's a wonderful addition. Students really enjoy seeing him. They miss their pets. Maverick has poor boundaries and he will sit on your lap whether you want him to or not. So get comfy because he's just going to sit down and decide he wants to sit on your lap for a bit. But it's a real joy to see students' eyes light up when they see that we have a furry friend as a companion for them. Uh, a couple more pictures. This is our amazing produce that comes from our farms here on campus. We're so proud to be able to offer this during the summer. We've actually begun offering just this week. Our greenhouses on campus have begun producing. So Dr. Rebecca Brown, who's a professor in cells, is our liaison to fresh produce, and it's just amazing. And students are so happy to get this. Dr. Brown tries really hard as well to grow things that students from other parts of the world recognize from home. So our students from Ghana are very happy to see what they call garden eggs, which is a type of very small eggplant. And it's great to see their eyes light up when they see food that looks familiar, like they'd get from home when they're so very far away. Um, just as I wrap up, and I thank you so much for your patience. These are just some of the projects we're working on. So Rhody Outpost is only part of my job. I work in many ways on, working one-on-one to help support students, connecting them with SNAP, encouraging students to donate through Meaningful Mondays, helping support them through Students First Fund, helping identify year-round housing options, specifically summer housing here on campus. Um, doing various collections with student groups throughout the year. We're hoping to do some collecting in the dorms as students move out, so they don't throw stuff out, but they donate it to us instead, whether that's food items, or clothing or electronics. So we're really hoping to capitalize on students' generosity, and it's easier to give it to us than it is to throw it out or take it home. So we'll be working on that with Housing and Residential Life. And I just really want to stress that I might be the face of Rhody Outpost. Well, Maverick's really the face of Rhody Outpost, but maybe I'm the second face of Rhody Outpost. But we can't do what we do without all of these people and more. And I've probably forgotten folks. But dining services, from giving us a home on campus to providing a ton of donated food for us. St. Augustine's, St. Peter's by the Sea, our program partner, they have food delivered every Friday for students who order, so they don't have to go down to St. Peter's to pick it up, to basically any number of offices around campus. Ollie, our Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, we have some wonderful volunteers from Ollie. Individual students, faculty, and community members. All the departments make donations throughout the course of the year. Our free farmers market, which will start up again in the fall with Dr. Brown and our nutrition department, as well as some great local companies, South County Bread Company, TLC, Coast Guard House, Narragansett Properties, various markets that either donate food to us every week or have donated gift cards or other support for our cause. So we continue to try to outreach to the community to let them know that there's an ongoing need here at URI, getting businesses engaged. We're not a member of the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, which many food pantries are, and that's how they get large amounts of food. We are not a member. We can't be a member because Johnny Cake Center and St. Peter's in our area are already members. So we'd be kind of diluting the market, if you will. But that means we're more dependent on ever than in getting donations from stores like JobLot or places who can give us large donations. So but all these people, all these organizations make the work we do possible. And I will stop sharing. Those are all the slides I have, but I would love to take any questions or comments that folks have. And we have a few.
I see some links there in the
Yep.
chat. Barbara, I want to thank you for that wonderful presentation. Every time I meet with Barbara, I come away with a greater awareness, a greater understanding, and what more we can do. Let me just check the chat right now and see if there's any questions. Well, we're having very good feedback on everything you've shared with us today. But Barbara, let me ask you this, and this is a two-part question. How do you ensure that your efforts are sustainable in the long term, and what strategies are in place to adapt to evolving needs and circumstances within the university community?
Thank you, Andrea, for that question. Sustainability is a challenge, both from an sort of environmental standpoint, and we're doing some work around that, as well as um, making those business connections so that we do have a regular source of financial support and programmatic support. I think some of the biggest things that we need to continue to work on are more of those policy level things out in the world. So making food stamps, removing barriers for students to getting food stamps or SNAP benefits, which there is actually some current legislation pending that will make it easier. But looking at things like here at URI, could we have sliding scale meal plans? So, students in public schools get free and reduced lunch, K to 12. Could we look at something similar to that? And many universities have done that. So students who have a certain amount of financial aid or who are Pell Grant recipients could be eligible to get a lower cost meal plan. Um, I mean, things like that, they make sense from a policy standpoint, because what it does is it guarantees support over the 4 years or however many years students are here, versus the more piecemeal, I've applied to the Rhody Outpost, I'm applying to Student First Fund, I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that we're set for the semester. Like I mentioned for that student, we're looking at things that are more long-lasting, more permanent, more based in infrastructure. I would add that, around sustainability, reducing food waste here on campus. Would it be possible for students to take food out of the dining hall? I know that's a big challenge for students. Could they eat better if they were able to take food out of the dining hall? So those are some policy issues. I would say also what we need is just continued awareness that 4,500 students at URI are at risk for being food insecure.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah.
I know one of the questions that is being asked in the chat is, how can local residents help? And I just also want to say for a minute that, going into the outpost and seeing the produce that are available, seeing students come in who are in need, it's palpable. The need is palpable. The need for more awareness and more understanding is palpable. I know that just on my own small level, where I play pickleball, I could go in and I did a food drive and an item drive. So, I had a big pool of people there that I could help start to make aware. We have QR codes out there, and it's just really every time I start this conversation out in the community, people are always surprised. So we
Yeah.
know that there's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of people to reach. I'm sure, Barbara, you can speak more to what else people can do locally, but we've, had groups that have had their own challenge
Mhm.
and had gift matching, and that there's a lot of things that people have done and can do. One of the things we can do is we have our big event on the quad on Monday, April 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is our hashtag No Ram Hungry Students Helping Students. And this is a special event. It's in conjunction with the university's Earth Day events on the quad. The spirit of generosity and kindness that day is booming. We teach students how they can share dining dollars with students who can register that they are in need, and how we can share those dining dollars with those students in need. We have matching going on. And it's a wonderful and a beautiful event. And we have, the opportunity for folks who are going to be on campus that day on Monday, April 22nd. Come out, you can bring an item. You'll see a list of the needed items for Rhody Outpost, and it's a wonderful way that local folks can help. And I don't know, Barbara, if you'd like to speak more about what people can do locally.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andrea. And thank you for the questions that are coming in. And Beth, to answer your question specifically, where should you direct donations? You can send them directly to me, and I will put my email in the chat so that anyone can make arrangements with me. Our outpost, or the dining services warehouse where the outpost is located, is open 5 days a week from early morning till at least 3 in the afternoon. I don't need to be there. If you have a donation, it can just be dropped off. And so feel free just to do that. I think that, like Andrea said, just raising awareness, banging on doors and letting people know. We want to be the worst kept secret on campus instead of still being the best kept secret. I still have faculty and students who say, I had no idea you existed. Students walk in like, I can't believe there's a food pantry here. I had no idea. So obviously capitalizing on donations, like Andrew said, through your groups, through your faith practice or your church, your pickleball club, your civic club, what have you. We're always happy to work with you on a donation drive, and I can give you some pointers as to sort of how to maximize for best results. But I really also want to see our students. Um, feel like they have a role in supporting other Rams so that we're no Ram hungry. And so things like donating through Meaningful Monday, which is a function in the Grubhub app that all of your students have on their phones, I can guarantee it. But students knowing that they can play a role in supporting their fellow students. I think what happens, especially with first year college students, they might think, I don't know what I can do. I have no skills. I don't even know what my major is yet. How can I be of help to anyone? And of course, all of our students have lots of skills and lots of gifts that they can share with each other. And so it's something as simple as donating to Meaningful Monday, or as the year's winding down and they still have $290 left, they can only donate $5 a week on Mondays. But what they can do is go into the corner store and purchase things with their dining dollars, like ramen noodles and even sushi. Of course, that needs to be kept refrigerated. But they can purchase those things and then donate them to the Roadie Outpost. If they wanted to spend some RAM dollars at CVS and get some shampoo or menstrual products or something, they could do that. RAM dollars don't expire, so I do encourage students to hang on to them as long as they need them. They can use them all 4 years. Their dining dollars will expire, I think, as of May 10th. So we're certainly encouraging students to do that and just to know that we are all responsible for each other.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Barbara. I know that there's Meaningful Mondays where they, go on, and my son can go on and he can donate dining dollars every Monday. So if you have students who have a meal plan, that's super important and very helpful and very much needed. I know that also on Monday, April 22nd, the bookstore is having a gift match, or they're giving a portion of the sales to Roadie Outpost. So, and that all, for our hashtag No Ram Hungry Students Helping Students, that all gifts made to Roadie Outpost will be matched dollar for dollar up to $2,550. So, are there any other questions, Barbara, or anything else you want to say before we move on?
I think we've covered everything that was in the chat. So I think we are ready to for Jack.
All right, so here's my son Jack, and it was through his Eagle Scout project that I really became aware of this need, and couldn't believe it was right in our backyard. And that was before he was even a student at the University of Rhode Island. And so now here we are today, kind of building upon it year after year, and there's still more to go and more we can do. And I'll leave it to Jack's words before we close.
Hello, I'm Jack Heineman, and I'm a third-year civil engineering student at the University of Rhode Island. Thank you for including me today in this important discussion. I'm also an Eagle Scout with Troop 138, West Kingston, Rhode Island, and it was through my Eagle Scout project in 2020 that I became aware of basic needs and security at both URI and across the nation. My Eagle Scout project was to build a large food receptacle for Roadie Outpost to help them accept more donations, and since then, we have grown through our partnership with Roadie Outpost, Share a Swipe for Hope, and now hashtag No Ram Hungry. 1 in 4 students at the University of Rhode Island are basic needs insecure, and it is my hope as a student to spread awareness on how we can come together as a community to help broaden our impact as Rams helping Rams. Join us on campus during our Earth Day event, hashtag No Ram Hungry, Students Helping Students, on Monday, April 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to seeing you then. Hello.
Are there any further questions? I'm just checking the chat. I don't think. I think it's just important at this time, first of all, to say thank you to parent council members who have attended the meeting, and to all of you who have attended. There is a giving form attached. There are Meaningful Mondays. that your students can donate if they have a meal plan. There's our Earth Day event on the quad, #NoRamHungry. There are lots of ways to help contribute to this really important issue, challenging our fellow Rams. As always, there's our URI Parent Council, and we need continued parent involvement. And there's lots of ways that you can serve. It's up to your interest and your availability. That's how I came to be here today. And I just can't thank you enough for being here today, for helping us. We hope to see you on the quad. We thank you for your continued support. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrea and Alicia, and go Rhody.
Go Rhody. Have a good day, everyone.